And let's get to the first point. You have to focus on your audience needs. It's so simple, right? So what are we talking about? I mean, just find out what they want and then provide it, of course. So let's take a look at this one. So why is this important? Why does this matter? As a successful presenter, your goal is to meet your audience expectation and satisfy their needs by the end of hearing what you have to say. By the end of hearing what you have to say. So you might have a powerful beginning. You might provide a compelling stories to back up your main point. But by the end of the presentation, if you don't finish strong, they're not going to remember what you're trying to say. So it's very important for you to construct a presentation that's strong from the beginning, strong in the middle, and strong to the end. And you have to do it by giving what the audience needs, okay? Very important. So, deep into the audience mind, what do they already know about your topic? All right, so when you put together your content, when you are making your PowerPoint slides, you have to consider what group of people you are talking to. Okay, is it a group of senior managers in the company? Are you delivering to a group of college students for a public speaking situation? Okay, you really have to consider the group. What do they know about this topic? Okay, do they have a thorough knowledge about the project? If not, you have to change the language because they may not be able to keep up with what you already know. So you really have to know who you are talking to and what they already know. Next one is, what misconceptions do they have about your message? And this is important because, for example, if you're giving a status report about a project that's delayed, so the misconception for most senior management is that you are lazy, all right? That's poor management. So that's the misconception. But it could be a coronavirus situation, or it could be the weather, okay, that causes the delay. So you have to be able to think about what kind of argument that they will bring or disagreement that they will bring to the table. And you have to counter those misconceptions. So you have to try to think about what goes on in their head, what kind of rejections they will have, and you have to solve them one by one, okay? So the persuasion skill is not to deliver a message and everyone will be happy, okay? Persuasion skill is something that we train ourselves on when we how we handle rejections, what we say when people say no to you, what you say when people doubt your abilities. That's persuasion, okay? So it's not just one formula that would take care of everything, because persuasion skills actually handles a lot of aspects in communication. So misconception is something that you really have to think about, and then you are there to help them clarify that misconception. And number 3, what areas of message will they resist? Of course, that's a rejection. Are you going to talk about something that your audience would think you are talking about fabrication? You're lying about something. Your ideas is wrong. Okay, so that's the resistance that you might face. So misconception, wrong idea that other people might have, or some ideas that they're just not willing to accept before they listen to you. And your job is to help them to ease the rejection, okay, to soften them up so they are willing to accept your point. Think about these 3 questions when you put together your presentation, because it will give you a very clear direction on what you need to build on your case. A lot of people would just say, no, okay, this is my presentation, and this is true. You are wrong, I'm right. I'm the presenter. I know everything about this topic. You as an audience, you don't know anything. That's the wrong approach. I'm not saying that this is a conversation you would have, but this would be, for a lot of speakers, this would go on in their mind. It's like, I'm the expert, you're not, so listen to me, okay? That's a failed presentation, not something that we should have in our mind, because if you have that thought building, your presentation would be very toxic. People would feel like you are not a part of them. And that way, you would create that disengagement with your audience. So be very careful with ideas when you construct your presentation. So please do keep these 3 points in mind because they're very important. And think about the main point. What are you trying to achieve? Are you just trying to win an argument, or you want to change people's behavior? And I would believe that for most cases, you are trying to change people's behavior. You want people to know that you're right. That's changing behavior. Or you just want to shut people up by winning the argument, so they cannot talk back to you anymore because they ran out of counterpoints. And then you feel like, oh, that's a victory, but it's not. They will never want to sit in your presentation ever again. Okay? So changing people's behavior, follow these 3 points. Okay? So a basic formula. So how do we do this? Okay? So I'm talking about that, it's a general way to start. Not like the perfect formula, but it's the basic formula. So I help, and we did this in interview class as well. It's a similar, or I think pretty much the same examples that you have seen if you attended the interview class, because interview skills, job interview skills is kind of like presentation skill because you are presenting yourself as a product. So there's a lot of techniques that we use in presentation and interviews, and those are very useful. So if you want to learn more about presentation skills, you can also check out the interview classes as well. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. I help specific target customer who wants to get specific desired results without having to, that's the misconception. Unwanted or inconvenient steps. Do you know any specific target customers who want to get specific desire or results? Okay, so really simple. I help some group of people to achieve something without some bad misconception. Okay, so do you know anybody who wants that? Let's take a look at examples. So this example, you would have some sort of answer or some sort of opening that sounds like this. I help business leaders who want to advance their communication skills and be competitive in global market in 60 days or less, without having to memorize hundreds of words or grammar points. Who here in your audience, so who here wants to master communication skills with ease in 60 days? So if I stand up on the stage, try to talk about something, try to sell my programs, then I stand up, or I'll be sitting down with like a maybe group of people, then I say, I help business leaders. And I know the audience are business leaders. That's why I choose this. Okay, so that's the research that I done. Okay, this is an example. So imagine that if I speak to a group of business leaders, and I would be telling my audience that I help business leaders who want to advance their communication skills and be competitive in global market in 60 days or less. And I have 60 days and global market, so I know that majority of my audience at that moment are companies who wants to get into the global market. And they are leaders, so they don't have much time. So I shorten the understanding of time, so it's not 1 year. It's just 60 days. That's 2 months of investment in time. So, because I know what they need, so I form this message. And I know most people don't like to memorize hundreds of words or grammar points because those are the pain we had when we were students in school. So I take out that misconception that, learning is all about memorizing words or memorizing grammar points, okay? So that's the misconception, and I take it out. I say, without having to memorize, okay, hundreds of words or grammar points. So there, just one sentence, I ease in. I kind of solve that misconception. And who here, and then you engage your audience now, you ask questions. So who here wants to do that? Who here wants to achieve this? Okay, raise your hand. So when I put my hands up, the audience, some people would just start raising their hand because that's something that they want. Then you know that this message worked. Okay, you got them. So this is a strong opening. You want to handle the audience needs, okay? You don't want to say something that they don't need to hear. So imagine if I go up on the stage and say, well, I've been teaching for 30 years, so I am very good at communication. So join me right now to my $2,000 US master communication class today, and I will help you do this and that. Okay, at that moment when I said this message, of course some people would say that, oh yeah, that's a good message. I would pay for that. But for most people, there's no connection because you don't talk about their needs. You don't know if the speaker understands your pain by asking, like, I do this for people. Okay, not just for anybody, but for this group of people to solve this particular problem. And I can do it in a very short period of time. And most people struggle with this, and I'm not going to ask my customers to struggle with that. So, do you want to join? Okay, different kind of approach. That's very important. Understand their needs and give them what they need to hear. So let's get into point 2, start strong. Of course, any message, any emails, or any type of business communication, you always want to have a strong beginning because you have to make sure that your readers or audience would pay attention to what you have to say. So why does this matter? If you fail to capture the audience attention right from the start, your presentation will fail. It's just that simple. Because if you don't get that attention right away, it's very difficult to get them back throughout the process. You have to work extra hard to get people's attention back. So if you get their attention in the beginning, your job will be easier. So how do we do that? We're not going to get into details on this one because other classes we will cover these topics, how to give a strong start. So first one is to give a provocative statement, something that is strong and makes people think, and it's a statement, okay? So in other classes, I will give you more examples. For this one, I'll keep that a secret, okay? So you will find out more about these skills in other class. And provocative statement, of course. Next one is thought-provoking question. You ask question. First one is just a simple statement. Second one is a question. Okay? Something that force people to think. Okay? It's something that we say and people will start wondering, is that true? That's scary. That's worrisome. That's exciting. Okay? So, thought-provoking questions. Next one, shocking facts. So if you have attended interview or resume classes, we also introduce this type of openings as well. So you can grab the audience attention right away by getting them or giving them some sort of facts that they never consider about. And I use this quite often because there are actually thoughts and facts that people don't pay attention to. For example, did you know that people read resume, or the interviewer just spends 6 seconds to read each resume? That's a shocking fact, because when you construct a resume, you only get 6 seconds, not 60 seconds, 6 seconds to grab the interviewer's attention. So shocking fact, it works. Next one is what if? So basically, you're painting a picture. Okay, imagine, what if, okay? That's a good one. And number 5, lead with a story. Of course, it's very important to think about a good story. When I say good, I mean it has to be good. Okay? Don't just tell a story because you feel like, oh, okay, it's a 20-minute presentation, so I have to fill up the time, so I have to put in a story. It won't work. Tell a story and train on your storytelling skill. Not just constructing the story, writing the story, okay? It's about telling the story. That is why it's called storytelling skill, not story writing skill. Okay? So when you lead with a story, you have to make sure that you are a good storyteller. Same thing that some people say, oh, you start with a joke. No, that's dangerous, because if you are not a humorous person and you start a joke and people just don't feel the same way about the joke as the way you do, then what's going to happen? You would have a very, very frustrating start. So that is why I never started any of my classes with a joke, ever, because I'm not very good with jokes. Okay, I might crack in like some little jokes here and there, maybe, okay, but I'm not saying that I would, but I'm just not a person that tells jokes, because I know that it wouldn't be effective, okay? I want everything I do in my presentation to work in my favor. Okay, those things I do in my presentations are the weapons of my choice. I have to use the strongest weapons I have, and so should you. So when you lead with a story, make sure you are good with storytelling, and never start with a story by saying that, I got a story to tell you. That's just a bad thing. If you have a story to tell, just tell it, okay? Don't start the presentation with that, I got an interesting story to share.